Hello, I'm Nick Reynolds and I'm the Head of Jazz at the University of Chichester, and today I thought I would do a tutorial on a different bass, partly because my bass, the 5-string bass, is currently away with the bass maker who's making a new bass for me, and he needs all the measurements for it, so he's got it. So at the moment I'm using my dad's old bass from the 80s, because he took up the bass for a little bit, then left it lying around, which is how I ended up playing the bass. And this is an old Japanese West Tone Thunder bass with only 20 frets. Usually I've got 24, 4 strings, thick strings, and an old plastic pick. And this is partly to demonstrate that the stuff I've been doing on the 5-string is translatable to a 4-string bass. I've also haven't overly rehearsed the arrangement I'm about to do. I'm going to do Embraceable You as a song. I'll play it through as a run through, and then I'm going to literally talk through the entire process of how I put this together, to give some people ideas about how to do solo bass, but also to show it's accessible on a 4-string bass as well as kind of 5-string fancy basses. So I'll play it first of all. So that was the arrangement, and again, slightly rough and ready because I haven't really practiced it a particular amount. And also it's to demonstrate really that a lot of the pieces that I do on the channel that I've recorded, they're not really written out or anything like that. They're more using a series of techniques that I kind of employ, and each time I recorded when I messed up, I would usually do something slightly different each time. So it's more a question of sort of building these techniques. So the first step, and I've done this in another video already, is just to be able to play the melody on its own, preferably on the top string of your bass, the G. So, and this works brilliantly, this tune, because it doesn't really do a vast amount. So that's the first step, which is just to be able to play the melody on the top string. And once I've done that, I now do the second part of the exercise, which I covered in an earlier tutorial, which is just to try putting the root notes in where they feel like they can fit. Now I'm trying to make sure when I do that I do have enough space to put additional harmony in later on. So when I'm doing this, I will generally avoid using root notes on the D string because I know I've got to kind of fill in some gaps harmonically. So let me just do that for you. And again, I'm sort of working through this sort of myself, you know, it is not going to be perfect. So there's the first one. There's G. That's fine. Then probably going to play an A, just the third of the bass, because I quite like that harmonically. Then we've got, now I'm also not afraid to use open strings at all. In fact, if I can use them, I will. But I won't use the open D here. Bit of a stretch there. And now back to. Now here I'm going to go down here, or I could do the A flat here. Okay, and this is Embraceable You in the key of F. So if you have the iReal Pro, you can find the chords for this. A. Then we've got G, B flat. Then C minor, B, which is a tritone substitution, or F. Okay. Then B flat. I can do the G there, or I could put a B flat minor there, and then C. Okay, and that gives me all of the root notes. And this, as I say, if you're learning this solo bass style, just being able to do that alone is a really useful skill, because then you can start learning how to play chord voicings and then filling in the kind of gaps from there. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in additional bits of harmony. Now there are two techniques that I'm going to start employing. One of them are these kind of chords here, where we play the root here, and usually the 7th and the 3rd, or the 3rd and the 7th on the top two strings. So here, for example, I've got an F major 7 shape, or an F minor 7th shape, or an F dominant 7th shape. So here we got, again, the 7th here and the 3rd each time. I've also got a 6th shape I can employ, and a diminished shape, which also covers half diminished. I can also do a half diminished shape. So all of these are kind of like bigger kind of chords. Similarly, I can do those chords when I'm playing down here. These are 7th chords with the root now on the A string. So there's a major 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th. I use a half diminished chord. Diminished chords, which I generally use this kind of shape. Now all of these chords can be found, if you look them up on the internet, bass chords. These are the kind of general basic chords that most people would teach initially. But alongside that, one of the things I found incredibly useful is to learn just triads on the top 3 strings of the bass, so the G, the D and the A string. So for example, F major triad, and its various inversions, and then we've got the minor triads, okay? This one here, and then we also have the augmented triad, which I often use. That's at the 3rd and the sharpened 5th. We've also got the diminished. Now the diminished shape can be like this. I often use that one because it's just a bit easier on the bass. And the half diminished shape, okay, which is also this one here, that one there, and then this one here, which I can just about to get to on the 4-string bass. But I basically have learnt all of the triads, the major triads, minor triads, half diminished, which also acts as diminished triads, augmented triads, and I'm actually going to use quite a few of them, because one of the things that I don't need to do constantly is always put the bass note in. I can't always get to it, and I don't need to. So you can often imply harmony instead of overtly stating it within an instrument. And this is particularly relevant when you've got something like a bass guitar, unlike a piano, where you can fill in all of the kind of harmony. I got this idea particularly from Bill Evans and Jim Hall, who both, if you watch or listen to their recording of Undercurrent, where they play together, a great deal of it is implied rather than kind of stated in terms of their rhythm and also their harmony. And it makes it really interesting because the listener then can use their imagination to fill in the gaps rather than you constantly stating it to them what they're supposed to hear. So this use of space. So once I've done that, this will be the next step. Now occasionally I'm also using my little harmonics tricks. So for example, the very first chord, which is actually an F major 6, is actually covered instantly by a harmonic. So I'm going to make use of that whenever I can. The next chord is a diminished an A flat diminished with the D. Now for this bass it's actually a bit of a stretch to do that, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to play a diminished shape down there and then move into the melody itself. Here again I've got a G minor, okay, and I don't have to put the root note in. I could do that if I wanted to, but I don't have to. And here A minor 7th and then a D 7th, again just a dominant 7th shape. But I can also use these kind of diminished ideas, and again I've covered these on tutorials, the idea of movable chord shapes that I use. But if I just keep it simple for the time being, here we go. Diminished, just a normal there, okay, then there's a triad, B flat minor. Now I've got to get a 6th in there, so there is a B flat, there is its minor 3rd, there's the 6th, and then I'm going to use an inversion of F with an A in the bass, okay. Then I'm going to use E 7th and an A augmented with another triad, okay. Then I'm going to play up here, just a normal minor inverse, just a triad again. Then we've got a B minor 7 flat 5, then an E7 sharp 9, okay, which I'll use the open string because it's available to me. Then to an A minor triad, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, F minor major 7th. Then again, here's my the note I'm going to use, and this will be an E minor 7th. So I'm going to make use of the open string and the harmonic, then augmented, then a D minor, G 7th, C 7th, okay. Now I can't really get to the diminished down there, but so all I'm going to do is just imply the harmony by playing the root note and let the imagination kind of fill in the rest. Then a G minor 7th, and then a C 7th, then a diminish. That was again just the triad, G minor 7th, A minor 7th, D 7th. Again, I'm trying to use, where I can't really get to the chord, I sometimes use a harmonic. Then a B minor, then an inversion of F, C minor, and literally I'm just playing the root note, and then a tritone substitution. There's a B flat major 7, E minor 7 flat 5, A 7th, D minor, B minor 7th, and then a B minor major 7th, B flat minor major 7th, and then we've got so that's A minor 7th, D augmented, B flat minor 6, or G minor 7 flat 5, and then here I'm just using that shape, which is literally that tritone, so it's just that, and then C 7th, just a basic C 7th, and then a F major triad. So that's basically used a variety of kind of like fairly conventional bass chord shapes, just triads and 7th chords to get around. Again, as I've said on a lot of the other videos, this isn't particularly a comprehensive one, it's just to show how I think in terms of a process of putting this together. I'm going to write a bass course with PDFs and actually step-by-step progressions to show people how to do this, but I'll have to do that next year when I've got a bit of time to do it. So the next thing I'm going to do is now put some of the kind of details into it, including use of movable chord shapes and harmonics to make it slightly more exciting. So the first bit is going to be fine, I'm quite happy with that. That's fine. But here I've kind of got a space to put all sorts of different things. I could use the A minor 7th and then move into a D, and then use a kind of a diminished like that. So or I could use an augmented. So all of these kind of things that I've shown in other videos where I kind of move around will create some sort of motion. I'll use the diminished for the time being. Now here again I can use the idea of those inner voice movement as well, just to kind of create some nice kind of motion there. then we've got, and again, little suspensions that I can move off. Then that's fine. Bit of decoration, movement. Here, E7, sharp 9, a bit of a slide. And then A minor 7th. Here, the harmonised minor scale, followed by a dominant 7th with a sharp flat 5 or a sharp 11th, and then a C 7th, and then G minor 7th with the harmonic and maybe a little kind of interesting tritone substitution. All right, so here again, I'm constantly trying to think creatively about filling gaps and using the idea, the classic thing of jazz, of call and response. I've played a phrase like Gershwin's tune does. And now it's leaving it open for me to put something in, which could be all sorts of things. If you listen to someone like Joe Pass, he'll put an incredible virtuosic line in. If you listen to someone like Jim Hall, he'll probably put something very spacious, a really sort of like tasty kind of chord. So depending on the kind of like the jazz musician or the musician that's playing this, you're going to get different kind of fills. But these response lines are absolutely perfect, where you can then sort of set up your own kind of language of how you want to kind of fill that gap. So if I move to the second section, G minor 7th, and then we've got B flat minor 7th, and then so I'm moving into a harmonic, then then B minor 7 flat 5, and then we've got okay, and that's fine. So I haven't put a vast amount of additional decoration in, but I am now kind of filling in gaps with slightly more complicated chords. Again, if I had my 5 string, then I often hook my thumb round and actually play other bass notes over the top of these kind of chords. But since I don't have that, it doesn't really bother me at all. I'm just in my head, then there might be things going on, but that again gives the listener something where they can kind of fill the gap if they want to. So where are we? And then I've used a sort of classic jazz ending, this kind of descending idea, and then we've got G minor 7th, and then maybe that, and then we could do something along the lines of that, and either end with a flourish or just end with a that, or just end with an interesting little kind of tritone idea. So these are all kind of fun things that you can sort of play with once you've got used to the basic structure. But just to go over it again, the first thing I did was melody, second thing add root notes, third thing I do start adding harmony within those root notes. Once I've done that, then I can start thinking of little call and response lines, interesting kind of movements. I actually use quite a limited palette of ideas, so although it might sound like I'm doing some complicated things, the reality is I'm using certain devices that I like a lot, that I've kind of stripped back tons of things that I've gone through over the years, and just use the ones that I actually think really work well for me and that fall under my fingers very easily and feel satisfying, and that's how I kind of like construct these ideas. So I'm hoping that was helpful. Like I say, I'm going to start doing more tutorials that are kind of stripped back and take you step by step things, but this was just to show the process of how I put a solo bass piece together, and also how I can do that on an ordinary 4-string heavy Japanese made West Tone Thunder bass that has seen a lot of history and is a great bass. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.